Well, the Supreme Court rarely does it, which is to announce an interim order on certain cases, but seemingly that's what it's headed towards. The top court of the country is now hearing multiple pleas against the Waqf law. A bench of Chief Justice of India, Sanjeev Khanna, and Justices Sanjay Kumar and K.V. Vishwanathan are hearing the pleas. After hearing the arguments so far, the Supreme Court has sought clarification from the Solicitor General over removal of Waqf by user. Supreme Court said that most masjids from 15th to 16th century did not have sale deeds. The government also questioned the petitioners as to what stopped mosques from registering. The top court also questioned petitioners what if mosques on land were claimed by government. Now, according to the petitioners, the amendment will distort the religious character of Waqf while also irreversibly damage the democratic process that governs the administration of Waqf and Waqf boards. The centre has filed a caveat in the top court so that no order should be passed without hearing it. I want to cut across to my colleague Nalini. Nalini, in all probability, we'll have an interim order that would be announced tomorrow. What are you looking out for? Because some of the observations that were made today, number one, on when the court spoke of what if you don't have Hindus on boards, religious boards of, temples and other religious sites which are owned by Hindus? So why non-Muslim on Waqf board? They touched on that. Number two, also very interesting, where he spoke about the collector's powers.
Preeti, in fact, it's interesting because the Supreme Court was keen to pass the interim order today itself, but it was on the insistence of the central government that they agreed to conduct another hearing tomorrow at 2 p.m. when the Solicitor General will be given an opportunity to address the court on certain issues. What are these issues? Number one, the court wanted to pass an interim order today stating that regarding any Waqf property that has been declared a Waqf property by the court, they should not be denotified after the enforcement of this act. Whether it's a property that's become a Waqf property through Waqf by user or Waqf by deed, they should not be denotified is something that the Supreme Court said. Another thing they said is that even during the time that the collector is conducting an inquiry on whether a particular piece of land is a Waqf land or a government land, the provision that says that during this inquiry, the property will not be considered to be a Waqf land should not be brought into implementation, which means that during the inquiry, it can be considered to be a Waqf property. The third thing that the Supreme Court said was regarding inclusion of non-Muslims into the boards and the councils regarding the Waqf properties. So they said that the only non-Muslims can be the ex officio members, maximum amounting to 2 members. All others should mandatorily be Muslim members, part of the Waqf boards. So on all these three aspects, the Solicitor General is expected to address the court tomorrow to place the centre's defense for why these things have been brought into this act. And depending on that, the court is going to decide whether or not there should be a partial interim stay on certain provisions of this act, some of which have been the main point of contention by the petitioners as elaborated by their lawyers today.
Of all the observations that were made today, Nalini, which is most contentious, which could have a bearing on the current law?
Well, pretty interestingly enough, the Chief Justice of India, in as many words, told the Solicitor General that if you start denotifying these properties, especially the properties which are Waqf by user properties, because these are properties that have been declared Waqf properties by the practice of them being used as Waqf properties for a really long time. They don't have the proper deeds or the documentation that identify them as these Waqf properties. So the CJI today, in as many words, told the Solicitor General that if you start denotifying these properties, then it's going to lead to an issue, which means that there is some strength to the arguments that have been placed by the petitioners when they say that the centre should not have done away with Waqf by user altogether. So tomorrow, the most interesting aspect is going to be watching out for is whether or not the Supreme Court is going to stop the denotification of these properties that have been primarily Waqf by user properties.
All right, Nalini. And if the Supreme Court does so, we don't know if it is going to, but if the Supreme Court does so, then it will have a huge bearing on the Waqf law, viewers. Nalini just explained to you how. With that, thank you, Nalini, for joining us on that. We're going to keep a keen eye on developments in the top court of the country tomorrow.